You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
Matt Lozwitz, and welcome to this week's episode of Bat Chat with Matt and Will, a Batman ranking podcast, where each week my co-host Will Nevin and I dig into 3 Batman stories, discuss them, and rank them on the big board, thus creating a giant list of Batman stories from best to worst. Will, how's it going tonight?
It's going, Matt. It's going. Guess what's gonna be mine in 2 to 8 weeks?
You did win!
Yes, I am a winner of one Leo Gallagher Jr.'s Bachelor's of Arts from, I think, the University of South Florida, if I remember correctly.
That is definitely something to own.
Yeah. Oh, well, and of course his report cards.
So what was the final number on it?
Oh, embarrassing, Matthew. Very embarrassing. Far too much money to spend on a joke.
But when one commits to the bit,
I know, right? You ever done much eBaying?
I used to back in the early aughts when it was, new and fresh. A lot of back issue hunting and out of print books and things like that. I occasionally do nowadays, but much, much rarer.
Yeah, I'm so glad that most of the stuff on eBay now is like just buy now or put in an offer, see if it goes. Like the auction stuff is not for me. But I was not prepared to pay a penny more. And I would have been much happier if it had been less. So that's about how that wound up. But if Dan's listening, I'm going to turn it into content at least. We'll get something out of it. And content beyond just this. Because, I'm kicking around some ideas. I mean, that's what we do with our lives now, right? We make content. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
and what was Gallagher's life if not content?
That is a very good point.
So yeah, I gotta figure out how I want to put this up in my office, and obviously what I'm going to do with the report cards, because I'm not keeping that.
I think you said gag gifts, and I think that is a logical use for Gallagher's report cards.
Maybe keep one for posterity to say I got, not only do I have his diploma, but I got his report card too. Yeah, so that's weird. Can't think of anything else weirder going on right now.
Nothing that wouldn't also make me want to bash my head into the wall and or cry. No.
Oh, well, we can't have that.
No, we'll just stick with Gallagher's report cards. I don't have much. I'm just playing catch up from being away for a weekend. So,
Oh, how was Florida?
it was lovely. It was very nice. I went out on a boat for the first time in my adult life, not, a ferry or something like that, but, a little boat going up and down the canals. It was something.
Paddle boat? Power boat?
A powerboat.
Ooh.
Yeah, just up and down the canals, out into the bay, and then back in. No real destination, just going around.
Well, I mean, that's the reason to be on a boat, not really going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not good with that kind of thing. You know me, everything has to have a purpose. But my father-in-law really wanted me to go. He really wanted to spend the time, and so I agreed. No matter how much Amber and his partner were like, you don't have to. No, he seemed really disappointed when I said I wasn't going to go. So I went, and it was fine. And I only got a little bit sunburned. Did really good with the
You are looking a little pink.
a little bit, but that's mostly color. It's it was mostly my earlobes and the back of my hands, the spots that I missed with the sunblock.
I remember going out to a ball game, basically high noon in July-ish, whenever the hell that was. Orioles,
Oh,
Baltimore. Ah, yeah, I don't need sunscreen. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Because Matthew, I'll tell you this, I hate goop. A goop is not, if you're listening, Gwyneth Paltrow, it's bullshit, and I hate the website. But I also just hate I hate lotions and creams and like that just greasy feeling. No. And I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. The worst sunburn I have ever had in my God-forsaken life in the distance between the bottom of my shorts and my kneecaps.
ooh,
Blistery,
oh,
just
those bells,
burned
man.
all to hell. I don't know why I thought of that just now, but yeah.
That's 17 kinds of not good.
Yeah, it was no, not good.
Yeah, no, that was my entire weekend. I did squeeze in Scream 7, which,
A marginal scream from reviews.
oh, marginal at best. Clearly leaning so heavily into the nostalgia because they had to rewrite the movie that it didn't work. One really good kill, but aside from that, just kind of there.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not a scream person, but that does figure at the seventh one of these is kind of there.
5 and 6 were a marked improvement from 3 and 4, but
I don't guess we really do just recyclable, doesn't really matter franchise sequels anymore.
no.
Because by the time you got to like Freddy 6, nobody really cares and nobody's really expecting something quality. And it's the equivalent of direct to video.
Yeah. And movies cost so damn much now to go and see unless you're doing movie pass type things that nobody's gonna spend a ton of money on yet another one of these unless they're a die-hard fan or, as I said, someone like me who sees everything and it doesn't cost me anything more at this point.
I guess Saw was really the last franchise to try to take that kind of approach. Like they were all theatrical releases, but they all definitely kind of circled the drain.
Yeah, after 3 or 4, Final Destination, that's up to 6, I think, 5 or 6. The last one was very good, way better than any of the past 2 or 3 of them. Bloodlines was I really enjoyed Bloodlines, but yeah, yeah, the long running franchise thing in horror doesn't really fly anymore.
Or at least if it does, there's an expectation of this has to make money and it has to make big money.
Oh yeah. It's The Bride this weekend.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Very, very excited for The Bride. And the new Pixar, Hoppers.
It's a fun double feature, Matthew.
One on Saturday, one on Sunday. But yes, that is the plan.
What a deranged weekend at the movie house.
Amber's away visiting her BFF for her birthday on Saturday and Sunday, so I got nothing to do but go to the movies. Maybe I'll see something else too. Maybe I will do a double feature on one of those days. We'll find out.
Ooh.
Although, having been away, the cats have been ridiculously clingy since I came home, so I might not want to be gone that far because they just get very anxious. Iris has been on my lap a lot when I'm down on the couch, and Binks has just been like, "Oh, you're working? No, you're not working. You're gonna pet Binks.
Nah.
You're gonna pet Binks now, right? I'm gonna get in the way so you can pet Binks."
It's
Like,
time for Binks's.
yes, Binks, it's time to scratch your head. You're a good boy.
I came home and Squeakers vomited exactly like 3 pieces of kibble.
Oh, poor guy.
Such a production.
And it's not like they were alone. That's the thing. Laura stayed here. She house slash cat sat Friday night, all day Saturday, and Sunday morning, and then our neighbors came over and fed them because I'm thinking about Iris more desperate for attention than Binks, which is funny because she's usually the one who hides, but she likes to know that people are there. on Sunday night and Monday morning. So they had human contact while we were away. This was not just leaving them food, but they're just really like, oh, please don't leave us again. We love you.
Please no.
Poor kitties. Right, Binksford? Poor Binksford. Sitting by my feet right now. But yeah, not much else going on in the way of life. So, hey, short intro. But before we get
But
into the episode,
oh,
good news, everyone!
oh,
Let us welcome returning Jason Toddbacker, Kyle Still. Welcome, Kyle.
hey,
Kyle will be getting their pick in a few months, but they're here and one more. Hooray!
hooray! Is it
And
still with one L or two L's?
two L's.
Two L's.
But speaking of Patreon requests from Jason Todd backers, we are still in our run of Patreon requests from Patreon backers. And this week, it's Ross Holmes's pick.
Mr. Random Ass himself.
Ross asked about Renee Montoya and 52. And I'm still not sure how we can do 52. So I went with the next best thing. Just in time for Greg Rucka's return to the Bat family this week with the new Batwoman series, we're reading 3 Rucka-penned question stories with Montoya as the question from right after 52. You've not read 52, have you, or have you? I didn't think
No,
you
I
had.
have not. I assume 52 is at least where Montoya becomes the question, correct?
Yes. 52 takes place in the year following Infinite Crisis. Infinite Crisis, the event ends, or most of the way through Infinite Crisis. All of the books in the DC universe jump forward a year in their timeline. And so there's all these mysteries as to what happened in that missing year. And 52 fills in that missing year.
What a convoluted ass thing.
It created a lot of buzz where we've saw Face to Face, where Gordon is suddenly back as commissioner and Bruce and Tim are back and Bruce is not being quite as much of a dick. There's a whole bunch of mysteries. Of all of these weekly series they've ever done, 52 is hands down, bar none, the best. The writer's room on 52 was Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, and Mark Waid.
That'll do it.
Yeah. And it focused on characters who weren't the tentpole characters because the whole sort of thing with that year is that it was a year without the big 3. The Trinity were all off the table for that year. Clark lost his powers at the end of Infinite Crisis. Diana wanted to go and become more in touch with living in the mortal realm and not being Wonder Woman. And Bruce was traveling the world with Tim and, for at least part of it, Dick, retracing the steps of his training to sort of find his center again. And so the miniseries, each of those had specific sort of pet characters and arcs they were working on. There was a Booster Gold story throughout, a Ralph Dibny Elongated Man story, a Black Adam story, a Steel story, a space story with Starfire, Adam Strange, and Animal Man lost in space, and the Renee Montoya and Vic Sage story. And the thing is, they're, all running together in each issue, and sometimes you might be away from one story for a couple issues, but then it would come back. So there isn't a way to break it up easily where we just read the Montoya stuff. It's also the story where Kate Kane makes her first appearance. Her first appearance as Batwoman is 52, I think, number 11. So all that, the concept of the religion of crime is introduced in 52, and it is where Vic Sage dies of lung cancer and passes the mantle on to Renee. So we pick up right after that with these stories, where that arc ends with the Religion of Crime's current Grandmaster, Bruno Mannheim, stabbing Kate through the chest and Montoya stopping him and saving her. That is where 52 sort of leaves Montoya, which is why we pick up in the Crime Bible, 5 Lessons of Blood.
Oh, that was smooth.
This is 52 Aftermath, Crime Bible, 5 Lessons of Blood. The writer is Greg Rucka, with art by Tom Mandrake, Jesus Saez, Matthew Clark, Diego Olmos, and Manuel Garcia, with supplementary inks by Jimmy Palmiotti in the final issue. Colors by David Barron, Javier Mena, and Santiago Olmos. Letters by Steve Wands and Rob Lee, edited by Michael Siglain and Harvey Richards, with the Crime Bible pages designed by Steve Lieber and Eric Troutman. The cover dates are December of 2007 through April of 2008. After the events of 52, Renee Montoya is the question and has a new mission: to track down the Crime Bible and stop the religion of crime. But the prophecies of the Black Book have an agenda of their own for the faceless, and Montoya is being pulled deeper into the world of the dark and the occult. For a character who has, up until this point, existed in Gotham, which, granted, is a city of clown-themed supervillains and crocodile men, moving Montoya into this occult realm, which we will see throughout the night, is a change. But Rucka still finds a way, in at least 2 of the 3 stories tonight, to keep it fairly grounded.
That second story, not so much in terms of the grounding.
No, but that's also event tie-in stuff.
What I like initially about this is the structure. I like having 5 more or less separate stories with this overall larger plot, theme, etc. But just focusing on, these little stories to flesh out the religion of crime. Like I thought that was an interesting approach.
And it gives us more of a feeling of the religion of crime as a religion. In 52, it's tied very heavily into Intergang, as Bruno Mannheim is a pre-existing Superman villain who's the head of Intergang. And so the religion of crime and Intergang are connected, and that is part of the tie with Apocalypse, that Intergang has always been Apocalypse's hand on Earth, or has been connected to Apocalyptian influence. So here, Rucka is still keeping some of the Apocalypse stuff, but adding the additional wrinkle of the prophecies in Cain, which again is also in 52, as there is the whole prophecy of the twice named daughter of Cain, Kathy Kane, which is why they thought they should sacrifice her to bring about apocalypse with the KLI, the planet, not the biblical sense.
Hey, when we get to that second story, it's basically interchangeable.
Well, yeah, because Final Crisis is a dark side story, but we'll get there in that story. Here, as you said, we have 5 more or less one-offs that have the plot threads of Montoya's quest for the Crime Bible and quest for information on the dark religion, and their 4 lessons: deceit, lust, greed, and murder. And then the parable of the faceless in the end. I love that each issue begins with this Bible page. It's a data page, for all intents and purposes, of one of the stories from the Crime Bible. And because I'm a big enough nerd to have put it together, did you notice the stuff traveling around the borders of that page?
No.
There are chapter and verse notations there. that if you piece them out, it's a page reference for the issue, a panel number, and a word. And if you actually cobble it together, you get another prophecy from the crime Bible or parable from the crime Bible if you actually sit and do the work.
You fucking nerds.
I remember doing it when I first read it. This time it exists online. So I just went and read it online. It's on the DC Wiki for the page for not the comic, but the object, the crime Bible on the DC Wiki. You can see what's in there. That's Eric Troutman, who is a regular collaborator with Rucka, sometimes as a co-writer, but also as a designer. And those pages are clearly the work of someone who does design work.
And Steve Lieber also did something with those pages too, correct?
Oh, yeah, there was always a sort of this woodcut illustration that went with what I assume is Rucka's text, Troutman's design, and Lieber's illustration.
Good opportunity to remind folks, read Whiteout. It's a good book.
Oh, great book. Steve Lieber. Also, as a tie-in to what we are, some of the stuff we're doing in the column right now, Lieber did the art for Matt Fraction's Jimmy Olsen miniseries, which someday we will do the one issue where Jimmy Olsen gets in a prank war with Batman. It's good stuff.
I have two-thirds of that episode. So we can do that issue and we can do the Kryptonite Spectrum.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, another good one.
Batman in Superman miniseries is.
Rucka did a Lois Lane miniseries at the same time as that Jimmy Olsen one that features Montoya as the Question.
Boom. There we
Yep.
go.
All right. But we are straying. I like all of the artists on this, and I this is one of the times where I think five different artists for the five different issues works. Each one has a slightly different flavor, and I think that Rucka or his editors or whoever was involved were smart in who they picked for each issue. That the first one, the Deceit issue, is they're all dark stories, but that one is particularly nasty. And I think Tom Mandrake does a really good job there. Jesus Saez doing the Lust issue. Saez is a really good artist when it comes to drawing beautiful people without it being obnoxiously cheesecake. And then Matthew Clark, who's the most superhero-y of these artists, doing the one with Batwoman, all work. And then Diego Almos and Manuel Garcia both do a nice job on the last two issues. It's a really good looking comic throughout.
I would say something other than I agree, but I do agree. It does look nice.
Do you know what I really appreciate about this story?
What do you really appreciate about this story, Matt?
This is a story about Montoya being an alcoholic without it ever mentioning alcohol.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
she stopped drinking. So what is she doing now? She's,
Obsessing over the crime Bible.
yes, as with anyone with an addiction and an addictive personality, it becomes way too easy to substitute one addiction for another.
Hmm.
And so it is continuing exploring Montoya's character arc without us being slammed over the head with reminders that Montoya is an alcoholic. Rucka gets this character because he's the one who redefined Montoya and made her more than just another member of the GCPD and Gordon's surrogate other daughter.
And not every writer has gotten that since then.
No. There's been way more hitting you over the head with remember Montoya is an alcoholic in the hands of many other writers.
We've read something I don't know whether it was the show or for the column where it was just really both ham-fisted and casually dismissive. And I forget what it was.
Blue Wall
Yeah, that's probably it.
for both the column and the show that treats Montoya's alcoholism. It's very ham-fisted, and then she falls off the wagon and then is just back on the wagon. That's not how any of this works.
No, it's not.
But here we see Montoya giving in to vice repeatedly, specifically lust and greed. Deceit is self-deceit, and murder is questionable whether she actually commits the murder in that story or if it's a case of evil crime order of the stone guy saying, oh, well, you led him to this situation. I killed him, but it's your fault, so you're the murderer.
Aha! Flawless logic.
Brother Flay. Yeah, these crime order of the stone guys are not exactly subtle, are they, with their names?
Sister Wreck?
Rack is the villain in the second story, and his sister Shard in this one. And the stone, of course, being the stone with which Cain slew Abel. They're all really on the nose, and the daughters of Lilith. They've got a theme and they go with it. This also really did feel to me like Rucka going out of his way to establish the status quo for this character, the new status quo. We see Montoya have a not great encounter with her ex in Kate Kane. Her and Tot, Aristotle Roeder, Vic Sage's father figure and mentor, and how strained their relationship is here at the beginning, that they're still feeling each other out. I love Tot. He's a great, great character. I mean, that's also from having read all of the O'Neill question and seeing him there and his and Vic's relationship. I mean, he's, in case you couldn't tell, sort of obviously part Alfred, part Oracle for Vic. And, a little scene with Gordon and Maggie Sawyer. And this is another one of these things that I've always wondered about editorial and how much editorial mucked with things that Rucka was trying to do. In the same way that we've questioned that with any number of other things. Because this feels like this ends on a cliffhanger. And it's a cliffhanger that is sort of lampshaded isn't exactly the right word, but is sort of written off very quickly at the beginning of the next story. And I have a feeling like Rucka had other plans for that cliffhanger, that editorial, you're not going to get to do those stories, so we need you to do something to tie into Final Crisis. So Rucka had to skip story B and did story A and then story C.
Montoya can't be the leader of a cult? No.
It's definitely one of these things where I'd have a feeling like it would have played out in the Batwoman series that was supposed to come out after 52 that didn't happen because DC are a bunch of wusses and there was blowback about a lesbian Batman character, and so they didn't do that Batwoman series right away.
Yeah.
And
that would have been good.
Yeah, and I feel like this would have been something that played out there.
Yeah, and absolutely would have been at home given these other stories.
But I think that it didn't, and so Rucka had to do the story that we're going to do next, and so he couldn't have Renee as the leader of the Order of the Stone there because it wouldn't have worked with the things that were going on. So we miss whatever was supposed to happen there. You have to be a really talented writer to do a story about a religious order that has the Book of Moriarty in its Bible and the whole thing not be ridiculous.
Yes.
And Rucka absolutely pulls that off. And I think having Montoya grounding the story and her being a rational character. And this story also doesn't get into the mysticism too much. It could just be a bunch of seriously disturbed religious wackos who believe in the religion of crime. Granted, again, from 52, we know that that crime Bible has ties to dark side, so we know there's something going on there. But there are people in the real world who have they're Satanists and they have their own dark Bible, and just because they believe it doesn't mean Satan's actually talking to any of them.
Let me recommend to anyone who is listening to this, and I think you should be able to find this on YouTube. The Law Enforcement Guide to Satanic Cults is a film from 94, I believe. And it was made by people who are very concerned about satanic cults. And it is made for law enforcement. And it is the most, I suppose, the most ironically cringy and hilarious thing you will ever see.
That's prime satanic panic time.
Oh no,
That's
no, no, not
oh
not not 84,
oh
sir.
oh
94.
oh. Okay, so that's post. Okay, I thought yeah.
These are the dum-dums coming in on the tail end of it.
Oh dear me. Okay, I
And
I must have heard 84, but 90. Oh yeah, 94. No, you're way out of the prime
yeah,
time satanic
yeah.
panic.
They film in San Francisco, so there's a lot of talk about the gays. It's delightful. And whether law enforcement actually watched this or observed any of the guidelines in it, who knows? But there is at least one copy in the FBI library at Quantico.
Oh
So
boy.
again, that is the Law Enforcement Guide to Satanic Cults. It is a hoot. And yes, there is a discussion about a black mass and what Satanists would do at a black mass. And it is disgusting and weird and hilarious to hear a very well-meaning older white gentleman try to explain it.
Well, on that note,
Oh, I guess we're done. I guess we're done
unless
here.
you've got something else.
I know. That means it's time. But 52 Aftermath Crime Bible, 5 Lessons of Blood on the big board.
We are at 687 stories on the big board.
Oh my God, creeping up on 700.
Number one is the post-crisis origin of Batman, Batman Year One.
Coming in at a sexy 69, it's Batman Annual number 4 from Volume 3, Every Day.
At 150 is the Joker presents a puzzle box, the Rashomon villains telling the cops stories book. At 300 is Ghost in the Machine, the first full appearance of Harper Row.
Coming in real high, not nearly as close to the bottom as it once was. At number 420, it's Justice League versus Suicide Squad, numbers 1 to 6.
At 450 is the Gotham Underground miniseries, one of the countdown to Final Crisis stories. So, in between the story we're talking about here and the next one, and then all the way at the bottom at 687, it's Three Jokers.
Woo, hunk of dog shit.
Where do we start with this?
That's a good question. I think this is the story of the night.
Probably, yeah.
And let's be real clear. And you were good enough to tell me about this before we got started. This is all really one story
Yes.
for the
This
most part.
there are act breaks in between each of these, but we are just following Montoya's post 52 journey here. And frankly, after this, she has appears in like 5 other comics before the new 52.
Seems about right.
Only one of them is a Rucka.
I think all these readings were enjoyable. Some of them more fucked up than others. Some of them, oh boy, real weird.
Yeah.
Um, this is probably less weird, but again, that doesn't speak to the quality of any of it. I just like the structure here the best. I think when we get to the third story, I think the back half loses a little steam, but the stakes in the second story are just too wild. So I think almost by default, this is the story of the night. Let's start a little bit above the middle. Pull a random piece here. Similar themes, perhaps. Not really. Similar name. Batman Devil's Advocate at 303.
Oh, higher than that.
Okay.
I'm looking at other Rucka that we've done.
Okay.
So, for instance, he wrote Claim Jumping, 257. It's the No Man's Land arc where Two-Face comes in and has his deal with Jim, and he has this random assassin knock out Batman, and they take part of Bruce's territory and they betray the Penguin. It's fine, but I think this is better than that.
Yeah, I would concur with that. If for only one reason that this has more ambition, that is just getting us from point A to point B in a much larger story. More like point D to point, F.
Right. And speaking of point A to point B, the next rucka above that is 225 Assembly, which is the one off that gets the Bat family into the No Man's Land and reveals that Huntress is Batgirl. Again, I think we're above that. We might start getting a little bit closer at 210 OMAC Project. Definitely ambitious, big in scope. I might like this a little more than that though, because that also has that sacrifice in the middle of it. And again, there's unnecessary extraness in there. This is tight.
Fruit of the Earth at 182.
That's now we're I think we're in the pocket there. I think we are around that area because there is some real meat on that story between Bruce and Tim dealing with Ivy and the schism in the Blue Boys and Two-Face coming to collect.
Above or below that.
If it's above, it's not by much.
So say below player on the other side.
That's kind of where I'm thinking. Yeah, I think that's a ceiling for this. I feel like player on the other side, and I hate to say we usually re-rank up, but there's that fun little Brave and the Bold that's a couple spots up from that. That might be one we need to look at in re-ranking and sort of settle that a little lower because that one has just gotten sort of caught in, just forgotten in there, and that should not be that high. Because I think once you get above player on the other side, you're getting into pretty rarefied air, and that's a fun story, but that doesn't belong up there.
Sometimes you get lucky, Matt.
Yeah. But okay, so below that is Consequences, where Jason Todd kills a guy. And then Fear for Sale, where we find out that Bruce Wayne's greatest fear is Jason Todd dying. Womp womp.
Mwah, mwah. I want to say it's got to be either directly above or below Fruit of the Earth.
I agree. I'm just trying to figure out if it is directly above or directly below. How about below? In between Fruit of the Earth and Dark Planet.
Sounds good.
Our second story of the night is Revelations. This is Final Crisis Revelations numbers 1 to 5. The writer is Greg Rucka, with pencils by Philip Tan, inks by Jonathan Glapian, Jeff De Los Santos, and Walden Wong, colors by Ian Hannon and Nye Ruffino, letters by John J. Hill, and edited by Eddie Berganza and Adam Schlagman. The cover dates are October of 2008 to February of 2009. As the prophecies of the crime Bible come to fruition and dark sides rise to domination of reality nears, the Question has a reunion with her old GCPD partner, Crispus Allen, who is currently serving as the host for the Spectre, God's wrath made manifest. Along with the Radiant, the spirit of God's mercy, they must deal with Alan's waning faith and face down the Order of the Stone and the other devotees of the religion of crime, now led by Cain himself, or as he is better known in the world, Vandal Savage.
A lot to talk about.
Yes, we are in crossover country here. Up first, problematic creator watch, noted sexual harasser Eddie Berganza.
Bag of douche.
So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on here.
Let me ask my first question.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there are competing origin stories for Vandal Savage.
This is the only version that is the Kane stuff.
Mm.
And the traditional origin of Vandal Savage is a Neanderthal who was exposed to a meteor that crashed to Earth, that the radiation from the meteor made him immortal.
And that was my understanding.
And that is his origin. That is his origin everywhere but here. But there can be a unified theory of the origins of Vandal Savage, in that the biblical stuff is sort of grafted onto an existing origin. That he is this caveman who does murder another cave person who was his brother. And that is over the years made into the story of Cain and Abel.
Almost as if he is his own legend.
Yes.
Interesting.
The most recent new history of the DC universe that came out earlier this year, where Mark Waid tried to string together all the different different periods of the DC universe and make a cohesive narrative, he established that Savage did kill his brother, who is Resurrection Man, which was something we knew, that they had been eternal adversaries and had both been exposed to the meteor. So I think Wade was trying to marry these two ideas together to make one logical, as logical as you can be when you're both having immortal cavemen and, Cain in one story.
You know the nice thing about Kane?
What's that?
Public domain character.
Oh, yes. On top of that, we get the next chapter of Montoya's story and dealing with the fallout from the events of Five Lessons of Blood, but also connecting to Chris Allen, who we knew was out there as the Spectre after the events of Infinite Crisis, and the two of them who were close. And it was his murder that drove her to quit the GCPD and hit the bottle hard. That we now have the two of them reuniting here in not a happy, fun way.
No, less than ideal circumstances. Your old coworker tries to come kill you.
It was specifically sent by the Almighty to kill you.
Although, what does God need with a starship? What does God need with a spirit of vengeance?
Isn't that just God has angels? That's what he does, and this guy's the angel of vengeance.
But why would God need an angel? He is God.
We are talking about various theological questions here. I mean, in any version, that is the question, isn't it? Why does God need us?
The answer, we're not needed.
Right. But here we get Montoya struggling with the religion of crime, struggling with Chris, and Chris struggling with what it means to be the Spectre. He had not appeared a ton. He had appeared in a 3-issue miniseries that was directly after Infinite Crisis, when he takes up the mantle of the Spectre. which is the story that ends with him taking the life of his own son, who shot and killed the man who killed him and got away with it.
Well, it's not just any man, it was Corrigan.
Not that Corrigan.
I know, this was a bit confusing for me.
It was designed as a red herring.
Mm.
The Spectre's original host was a guy named Jim Corrigan. That Jim Corrigan got his eternal reward. He got to give up the mantle of the Spectre and move. He went into the light. Then, after all of that chaos with Parallax and all of that, Hal Jordan was the Spectre for a while. Hal Jordan gets resurrected. The Spectre is existing without a host, which is a bad thing. Because the wrath of God, the angel of vengeance, needs a human host to balance out the fact that it's the wrath of God. So after it had been manipulated and went on a big old killing spree in the run up to Infinite Crisis, Chris, who had been killed by this new Jim Corrigan, who was a red herring for people who know who the Spectre is, being like, oh, well, this guy's obviously going to become the new Spectre. Because the original Corrigan wasn't dirty, but he was this hard-boiled cop who didn't care about the lives of criminals, and he bent the rules to the point of nearly breaking, and so had to learn the value of life by being the Spectre. It was assuming, oh, the new Corrigan's a crooked cop who's going to become the Spectre. But he kills Alan, and Alan becomes the Spectre. That's a whole lot of glorious comic book nonsense.
Beautiful.
But here we have Rucka really asking a lot of very heavy theological questions. Rucka, by the way, did not write the story where Alan had to kill his own son. That was somebody else. And then I think there was a Tales of the Unexpected miniseries in that in-between time. That was another Alan as the Spectre story. But here is Rucka getting the chance to write the character again and I think make right some of the stuff that he felt had been done wrong with the character, including the fact that Alan has two sons, and the one that he has here resurrected isn't the son who actually killed Corrigan, because they got which son wrong in that miniseries.
Ooh, that's bad.
That they used the name of the younger son when it was supposed to be obviously the older son who did it. So the names don't match across the two stories, but since Rucka created them, it was obvious to him that this is the character you meant to use in that story. Oops.
Yeah. Oops, indeed. Yeesh.
But this is also the first and nearly only appearance of the Radiant, the Angel of Mercy, the counterbalancing force to the Spectre, which I think is a cool concept. I think the idea that if you have this Angel of Wrath out there, this being that is the Old Testament, that you would, in theory, need the balancing force of that New Testament God, the turn the other cheek mercy God. But I think Rucka also does a lot here with questioning faith. That Alan is lost and angry because he doesn't understand why God made him take the life of his own son. And our Radiant, who also died in violence, is haunted by the fact that the men who killed her aren't drawing the attention of the Spectre. And that's the question of, no pun intended, why the Spectre acts on some and not others. And that's a classic theological question. Why do bad things happen to good people?
I was reading this story and I was fascinated when the anti-life equation comes into this. And I haven't read too many, dark side stories When we took up Deceased, I just assumed that when it dealt with the anti-life equation as just a form of zombification, I thought that was a real outlier in how dark side stuff is dealt with and talked about, and especially the anti-life equation. But it's basically the same thing here.
It's what we saw in Final Crisis. The anti-life equation is the absence of free will. That is what it was established back when Kirby created it. That life is choice, life is will. What Kirby was doing in the New God stuff is a condemnation of fascism.
Mm.
And so, what does a fascist regime want more than everyone to simply nod along and agree? So, the anti life equation is the cessation of free will. And so, here we very much see that. And we see Savage, who is in this story one of the chief avatars of Darkseid's reign, as we see happening elsewhere in Final Crisis, trying his best to spread anti-life, which the crime Bible is a tool of Darkseid, a tool to further his will. That those prophecies and everything are prophetic gifts from the gods of apocalypse. And we don't get a lot of that details. We hear bits and pieces of it. I mean, obviously, the anti-life equation, talk of apocalypse, and things like that. But if this wasn't taking place at the same time as Final Crisis, it could almost exist as its own sort of mini event. Because you don't need to know everything going on in Final Crisis, except for there's some obvious details and things that are brought up that tie into the bigger story. But you stripped out a handful of references, and this could be its own very cosmic question and Spectre story.
Does involve the enslavement of the entire planet. It seems big, big scope, big scale.
That, I mean, yeah. And when you're playing the harmony to Grant Morrison's melody, there's a lot going on there. And it continues Montoya's own journey in what we saw before in her facing down the religion of crime and her having to see where her faith lies. As we know from Gotham Central, she was a fairly devout Catholic who, after she was outed, just lost her place in the church. And that final moment when she's facing down Savage and he makes some comment to the Radiant about having lost her faith. And Montoya is saying that she still has her faith. Her faith is in her friends. It's her seeing where she exists in the world now. And her still being hung up on Kate. No matter what else, she always seems to come back to Kate, who is possessed by anti-life. Her and Selina, who we see in Final Crisis eventually becoming two of Darkseid's Furies. This, I believe, fits in there's a gap of time. There's like a skip in between. I think it's issues either 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. I think it's 3 and 4, where the Flashes are running and they kind of leapfrog through time. They're moving so fast. And they disappear for a month and they come back and the world is overrun by anti-life. And I think this is one of the stories that fits in that 1 month to explain some of the things that were going on at that time.
We went too far, Barry. We went too fast.
Philip Tan's art here is good, but I've never been a huge fan of Tan's art. And I don't think it is quite as good as the art in the other two stories.
No, not quite.
I also was a little befuddled that the villain here is, well, many villains, but the leader of the Order of the Stone, as you mentioned, was Sister Rack. WRACK is in Rack and Ruin, for those out there who haven't read it. I don't understand why it isn't Sister Shard from the previous story, who was Brother Flay's right hand, who's the one who, when Montoya kills Flay, who's like, no, you are our new leader. Or if you weren't going to do that, wouldn't it have been kind of cool if Alicia, the sister of Lilith, who Montoya was trying to save and who winds up being deeply involved in the religion of crime and doesn't want out, you kind of get the very clear sign at the end. Wouldn't it be cool if she was the one leading the Order of the Stone now?
That'd be pretty sweet.
Again, I feel like we missed something that Rucka didn't have the time to write in between those two stories.
There is something with Montoya and the religion of crime without the final crisis bit. I think you're very much right that there's some other story there of Montoya being obsessed and yet knowing that, ugh, these guys are dangerous and bad, but I have to know more if I want to stop them. They want me to lead them. I suppose I will lead them.
Yes, and I wish we had gotten that story. It just makes me wonder where, not that we're covering it tonight, but Rucka's first arc on detective, the first Batwoman detective arc he does, where Alice is raised as the new High Madam of the religion of crime. It seems like there's different orders of the religion of crime. And so I think Alice was the leader of a different sect than the Order of the Stone, especially since the entire Order of the Stone gets, turned to dust by the Spectre at the end there. But Montoya having to compete with Kate's whacked out sister to run the religion of crime, and Kate caught in the middle of it between the two of them, I have to imagine, because one of those passages that you get when you're putting together the stuff from the crime Bible pages from the Five Lessons of Blood says something about Montoya and the last great headmistress of the religion of crime. So I'm pretty sure Rucka intended to have something going on between her and Alice that, again, we never got to see. Nevertheless, rarely do we see anything in superhero comics, mainstream superhero comics anyway, that so directly addresses faith in
Mm.
this way. And it's a lot, and it's at times, I think, a bit heavy handed. Like Alan, I get to a point where it's like, okay, Chris, you've moaned about you having to kill your son so many times here. And that's the serialized nature of it. That since that's his driving arc, he has to mention it in each issue if you're grabbing a random issue of this. But who the hell is picking up the third issue of a tie-in miniseries to an event and not having read the first two? Doesn't strike me as the kind of thing that you randomly grab.
Well, Matt, you grab what's at the comic store, not necessarily what you want to be at the comic store.
Okay. But again, I give Rucka credit for trying something and doing something different that we don't normally get to see.
Mm.
Also, I loved it that he turned Dr. Light into a candle and melted him. I love when the Spectre is in ironic EC Comics manner of death Spectre. If you never have readers out there, and Will, I would recommend this to you as well, the Michael Fleischer, Jim Aparo Spectre stories from the 70s that I know I got them in a trade because there aren't a ton of them, but that is where you get Spectre doing ironic punishments. That's what it started, and it's so good. Like Taylor kills, I think, his either partner or his lover. Spectre's hands turn into giant scissors and cut him up, and turning creepy rapist murderer Dr. Light into a candle and then lighting it and watching him melt down into a pool of wax. 2 thumbs up, no notes.
Pretty good.
And I think I'm going to say this at the end of all. I said it at the end of the first one. I'm going to say it here and at the last one as well. This is another thing that I feel like Rocco was laying all sorts of seeds that he never got to pay off. Creating the Radiant, the stuff with Alan, all of it is there and none of it ever gets paid off. This ends in cover date February of '09. So that's December of '08. So we're 2.5 years out from the new 52. And Rucka gets to, we know the mess that, I mean, Detective gets cut short, and then they promise him the Batwoman ongoing, and he gets to write a zero issue, and then nothing. And I think a lot of this would have played out in the Batwoman ongoing, tying up this stuff from this with the stuff that he does in Detective, and all of it would have come together, and it just never happened. Really curious to see what this new Batwoman series does and how much of his original plan he's going to be able to actually still do. How much he's just going to ignore all of the stuff that's been done with Kate Kane in between the last issue of his Detective Comics and now.
I imagine too it's a question of how long he's going to be around, right? Like how long is this going to be? I don't remember his Wonder Woman series as being all that long.
About a year of double ships. I want to say he did the first 25 issues. And by the way, smartest, best use of the double ship of anyone who did the double shipping books. Like,
Who had
wow.
to?
Yeah, 25 issues and an annual. That was his entire run. So at a double ship, that's a year. Kate is his character. I think he was gonna want to stick around as long as he can, as long as profitability provides. So let's hope for a while.
It is 2007. Mark Waid and Greg Rucka are important at DC Comics. It is 2027. Mark Waid and Jim Rucka are important at DC Comics. Which is good. Good. I mean, they have proven themselves to be excellent writers, and I want good people doing good work. And it's not that new folks haven't had an opportunity. Some have made the most of their opportunity. Little old tiny onion over there, doing great.
Anything else?
Oh, I don't believe so. Oh, that means it's time for Final Crisis Revelations on the big board.
I gotta give this credit for scope, if nothing else.
Is it going to be on the high side of 200?
200 right now. I don't think it beats Fables at 200. The Denny O'Neil Batman Green Arrow question crossover. Again, speaking of ambitious and wild, in religion, Holy Terror is at 201. I don't think it beats Holy Terror.
Second volume of Batman Eternal at 225.
Oh, I think we're above that.
All right.
This is more coherent than that. Or more consistent anyway.
Another No Man's Land story, Mark of Cain at 219.
Speaking of the Mark of Cain,
Yeah, quite literally, at least in some of the stories tonight.
that's one I'm trying to wait because that's the first appearance of Cassandra Cain. So that is historically important. But I think this is telling a more ambitious story.
I'll give you a number. I'll give you a
Okay.
number. If it's more important than Mark of Cain.
Oh, it's not more important than Mark of Cain. Mark of Cain is more important, I think, but I think this
Okay.
is because Cassandra Cain is a major.
That's oh boy, it's late.
Yeah, that's
That-
all
That's
good.
literally the point you were just trying to make. Well, if this goes higher because of ambition than things that might be more important, I think we jump right over Mark of Cain, Birds of Prey, Batman Judge Dredd, as much as we like it. Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet. Slot this at 216.
Sounds good. And our final story of the night is Pipeline. This is Detective Comics 854 to 865's backup stories. The writer is Greg Rucka, with art by Cully Hamner, colors by Laura Martin and Dave McCaig, letters by Jared K. Fletcher, and edited by Harvey Richards and Michael Siglane. The cover dates are August of 2009 to July of 2010. The case of a missing young woman leads the question to find something far more sinister. An organized crime ring called the Network is trafficking in people, guns, drugs, and anything else. With the aid of the Huntress and Vic Sage's mentor Aristotle Roeder, Montoya hunts the person behind the network, who has his own agenda and vendetta against Montoya.
I've got to say, it is a real pleasure being able to read a serialized backup in one go. I cannot remember for the life of me ever, fucking ever, a backup from month to month. Like I get so fucking lost and I'm like, I'm trying to read this. I don't remember what happened in the last issue. I certainly don't remember what happened 3 issues ago. So this was very nice to be able to sit down and consume this whole thing, which is about the size of what, 3 issues, give or take?
3 to 4, somewhere around
Yeah.
there. Yeah, four, because if it's 12 at between 8 and 10 pages each. If it were 10 pages each, it would be five and change. So with the mix, it's probably about four.
And did I just miss something or misunderstand something or get confused? Did they mess up the numbering?
Yep.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good.
It gets part 2, chapter 1 is there twice.
Yeah, okay,
Then
good.
it goes chapter 1, chapter 3. So they got it right after that, but they there was a mistake in those. Yes.
Oopsie doodle.
Again, boy, I wonder where Rucka was planning to go with this. Because the first half of this, I could have read stories like that forever.
Oh my God, Renee Montoya fighting street crime? Oh, oof, perfect.
Montoya taking down a human trafficking ring. One of his Atticus Kodiak novels is all about Atticus taking out a human trafficking ring. So it's something he clearly researched and wanted to draw attention to, and rightly so, because one of the best lines tonight, in anything we've read in a while, is Tot talking to Montoya. People who sell lives value them only as a commodity, a very cheap one.
Yes, that
Oh,
was good.
that's such a good line. And it just feels like Rucka had plans that he's setting up Montoya and the question. He's setting up Montoya and the Huntress as this sort of dual act where the two of them will be working together, and Tot as the moral backbone, standing up to them when they cross a line that he feels is wrong for them to cross.
I want to pause and talk about that real quick. All right, let's say, Maddie Lasers, you are a contract killer. The very first time that you take a contract, you take payment for that contract, and you conspire to keep those people alive, I think the days of you being a contract killer are over.
I think your reputation is shot. I mean, you can still happily take contracts on people. I mean, they paid him more. Listen, Zeiss is he's bargain basement Prometheus. That guy is lame. Ed Brubaker created him in his Batman run, and the dude has basically the same shtick as Prometheus with the being able to record and duplicate people's body language, only without the kooky anti-Batman origin. And he's got funky glasses instead of a whole helmet,
He's never closing his eyes, though.
which I guess is possibly why Savage hired him, because he knew that he'd be willing to just sell out Savage and give them the information or assume that they'd be able to beat him because he wanted to get Montoya and Huntress to him. It is a novel solution to that problem. And granted, it's one we've seen before. When you've got someone who's sheerly mercenary, just offer to pay them more.
It always worked in Game of Thrones.
It worked in the Justice League cartoon where Batman just pays the Ultra Humanite to betray Luthor by offering him double.
As
Batman
the Million Dollar Man says, everybody's got a price.
and Batman's greatest superpower. He's really, really rich.
Really rich and really smart.
Yep.
And strong. Not super strong, but strong enough.
I agree with what you said earlier that the second half is not as strong as the first.
It loses the emotional core. It loses the grounding, right? When we're going off to secret islands and hacking into server rooms, that doesn't have the same urgency as we're trying to find a victim. We're trying to reunite a family. And so, yeah, I'm glad there was that clear break. And it certainly makes sense as a story, right? Like the first half is we are rescuing this woman, and then the back half is we are taking down the organization. And both are compelling stories. And I think that second story can be just as compelling as the first. It just didn't work out that way here. And we did have that little Vandal Savage twist at the end.
And I wonder if this was rushed.
Well, I mean, you have the final two parts coming out in Batwoman that's not Rucka's anymore, which had to be a little bit weird for everybody involved.
They weren't Batwoman. That was a fill-in two-parter in the front end. That isn't even Batwoman anymore. That's Arkham Asylum stuff. The story
Oh,
set
shit.
inside Arkham.
I did not read it, and I just kind of skimmed through it and was like, oh, this doesn't look great.
It is the stuff bridging the gap in between the end of Rucka's run and Black Mirror when Snyder
Huh.
takes over the book. There's a two-parter, that two-parter, and then like I think one or two one-offs, and then we get Black Mirror.
That's a hard pivot.
And it's not an easy act to be in the middle of, in between Greg Rucka and Scott Snyder.
No, personally, I'd pass on that.
I wonder if Rucka had longer term plans. And Batwoman ends on a cliffhanger that never gets resolved by Rucka anyway. And here I kind of wonder if he had to, he just figured, all right, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to wrap this up if I don't do something. They promised me a Batwoman ongoing, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to really get a Montoya focused anything anymore. So let me just give it some kind of coda. He does get one more Montoya question story after this, before the New 52. During Blackest Night, when they did a bunch of the next issue in classic series with dead characters, he does a story where Montoya and Tot and Lady Shiva have to deal with zombie Vic Sage.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's pretty good, but it's a lot. And it's not as focused, and it's clearly not what Rucka intended to do as the next story with these characters.
Zombie Vic Sage is a little weird.
I mean, that was the whole thing with Blackest Night. It's just zombie superheroes everywhere you look, and supervillains. I really like Cully Hamner's art in this.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one bit at the beginning of part two where Montoya has found the house that the coyote who brought this girl over from Mexico is the house he's using. And she looks around and then she goes out and the coyote and his two goons show up. And while they're, talking to her and trying to be intimidating, she's just stretching. Her whole body language, it's phenomenal because she doesn't even care that these guys have got guns on her. She's pulling her ankle up and she's limbering up and then she just beats the shit out of them. But it's just such good body language and just shows you how little she cares what these guys are doing.
And this is a good question design. It's the sharp, especially the colors. I love all the blue.
It's why Cully Hamner is one of the few artists who I've gotten to do a sketch where I did not go, pick any Bat character you want. I was like, no, no, can you give me Montoya as the question, please? Did the sketch while these were coming out, and he was talking about how much he liked drawing them. I'm like, great, Montoya is the question.
Give it to me.
I like the rapport that we get between Montoya and Helena, between Question and Huntress. They both had very different but equally emotionally intense relationships with Vic Sage. I love when Huntress is so
You guys together?
no, we could not have been further from that. I just love Montoya's response. It's like, oh, you have no idea. But them talking and Huntress being affected when she learns how he died. And frankly, we didn't mention it, but back in Five Lessons of Blood, when Montoya goes to Hub City in that fourth issue and meets Myra, Vic's ex. And I've always liked that only Tot and Renee call him by his given birth name. Everyone else goes by Vic, which is his middle name and his professional name, but only Tot and Renee call him Charlie. And it shows the different way that he viewed the two of them, and that he left that lighthouse that was his to the both of them because I think he believed that they were going to need each other with him gone.
And I cut off the discussion of this, but Tot taking that firm moral stand about working with the contract killer, that was interesting. And it's not like he did some kind of long, impassioned speech. He just said like, "Well, that's a mistake. I won't have any part of this."
You should be ashamed of yourself, and if Charlie was still alive, he would be too.
Oh,
And then he just walks away, which does get into one of the other funniest bits in here. Helena is like, I got a guy. Commissioner Gordon's daughter?
Commissioner Gordon's daughter?
Daughter. You can get over it now.
Let it go.
Great seeing Renee's complete befuddlement of Barbara being involved in the superhero world.
If you only knew.
Yeah, exactly. And unsurprisingly, Montoya taking the mark of Cain onto herself is never paid off.
No, of course not.
I assume Rucka had plans for it, but when we see Montoya in that Blackest Night issue, we don't see the mark. And eventually, someone else explains that she learned to find a way to hide it. But
it's what you do with mystical marks. You just hide them.
Yeah. The ending is really good when, her and Huntress both willing to take the mark to protect the other. I guess we didn't talk about it, but yeah, Vandal Savage has the mark of Cain because he's Cain. And in the end, the mark is there and no one can look upon it without wanting to drive him off. And here at the end, he's like, okay, one of you has to take it. Choose to take it, and it can be transferred, or I'll kill you both, and you'll suffer terribly. And we get just the both of them fighting each other to sacrifice themselves. And that bit at the end when they're walking away and the mark is gone, and Montoya has the face mask, and Hunter's like, take off your mask. Maybe later. It just walks away. I feel like Rucka had plans for that and never got it.
And I guess the mark confers immortality?
That is the biblical thing, that the mark of Cain means you cannot die and no one can kill you, but you're eternally a pariah. So
what if you were already not a people person, right? That's not a huge sacrifice.
No, but when you're Vandal Savage and you want to be ruling everyone, when the minute anyone sees you, they want to, stone you. It's harder.
It is harder. Reminds me of that great Bill Pullman SNL skit about the rich man trying to get into heaven, funding large needles and small camels. Like this would be Vandal Savage looking into mystical, magical mark removers.
This is all God's fault. God's fault for giving me this mark. Never does he say, well, it might have been my fault for, killing someone.
Abel was a real dick.
There's got to be a sketch there somewhere of the first trial, Cain versus God, and the first defense attorney.
You don't seem like you're very good. You don't have much practice. This is the first crime. We're making all this up as we go.
There's a lot of globe trotting in there. I mean, we get Oolong Island, which is a thing from 52, and Veronica Cale, who's another Rucka creation from his first run on Wonder Woman. So yeah, I mean, it does get very busy in that second half after how streamlined the first half was. But I just feel like there was plans for this to be, if Ruck had gotten a long run on this, the quest for the network to go on for a long time and just be a bunch of little stories of Renee fighting different crimes. And I would have been there for all that.
Oh boy. I just love a good street crime book. Yes, the overall kind of organization slash cult is interesting, but just solving a murder, putting a gang of thieves in prison, right? Just simple basic stuff can be interesting.
Getting the happy resolution of finding a trafficked woman and getting her back to her family.
I would be a happy man reading police procedurals the rest of my life. I'm a simple guy. I like basic crime stories and diplomas that I didn't earn.
And on that note,
On that note, that means it's time to put Pipeline, the backups from Detective Comics 854 to 865 on the big board. 232. Post-crisis origin of Jason Todd, above or below?
from that statement, this is the lowest of the three tonight.
Just because that back half is a little softer. I mean, I would not fight you. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
I'm going back. I'm kind of going back and forth because I'm not sure this versus Revelations. I like the art here more than I like the art on Revelations,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the scope of Revelations helps it. Trying to expand the scope on the back half of this, I think, dings it a little. The back half is at its best when it's at its most intimate, when it's Montoya and Huntress bantering, when it's them and Tot interacting. Below that, post-crisis origin is Enigma consulting detective, Dini's story where Riddler goes straight-ish and becomes a detective in Gotham.
That story goes out to all you straight-ish people out there.
You know what? I think we are in between that Riddler story and the one below it, Fear of Faith, the second arc of No Man's Land. I think this is the
Okay.
new 234.
Love it.
And that does it for tonight. Next week, we get a request from Abigail Hartbaum with stories about one of DC's most complicated mother-daughter relationships, Cassandra Cain and Lady Shiva. Remember, you can support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/batchat with Matt and Will, where you can get shoutouts, bonus content, pick a story, and even come on the show. We'd like to thank those Patreon backers: Dan Grote, Josh Wheel, Mrs. Abigail Hartbaum,
Mm.
Asimov Fangro, Tony Thornley,
Go Aggies.
Sam Hopper,
Sam, go to bed. It is late.
John Wickham,
John, you beautiful baby boy, you love you, bubby.
Tim Rooney, Giorgio Sergioli, David Wheel,
World's greatest gray belt,
Alexander Wheel, Matt McThorne,
McThorny,
Dan Offer,
Barley Newer,
Nate Randall, Daniel Mosley, Ross Holmes,
Mr. Random Ace,
Will Crisp,
me compadre. Looking forward to this weekend.
Carlos Cordova, Jordan Jennings, Charlie Etheridge Nunn, Sean Shambly, The Final Wraith,
The scariest wraith.
and Kyle Still for their support.
Still the one.
This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music/Audible, YouTube Music, Podbean, and on comicsxf.com, where new episodes drop every Thursday. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I talk about comics and other random things, and Letterboxd, where I review all the movies I watch, both at MattLaz1013.
I am still on Twitter at Will Nevin, where I guess I talk about the college diplomas of middling famous people that I acquire. Who should be next, Matt?
I'm trying to think who is of that level of celebrity who has shuffled off this mortal coil recently.
The guy who was in the McGruff, the crime dog costume.
There you go.
There we go. Whoever that was. I'm coming for that degree, buddy. But before then, I need rest. I'm going to bed. Good night, Huntsville.
And be sure to visit ComicsXF at comicsxf.com or ComicsXF on Blue Sky for our weekly Friday Bat Chat round of new Bat books, for my other show, the ComicsXF Interview Podcast, where my longtime best friend Dan Grote and I interview comics creators, retailers, publishers, journalists, and other related tradespeople, as well as all the other stuff Will and I are writing. And stay safe out there, folks. Gotham is not a place to be after dark.